This is the story of how I pulled off 3 art festivals in 3 weeks while living out of my van. But before we get into that, I need to explain why I'm doing this video in the first place. I have 3 main goals. Goal number 1, I want to help other artists understand that there's a path to doing their art full-time. But there's a catch. With the proliferation of AI art being generated and flooding the internet, my prediction, and it's not a crazy one, is that it's going to be a lot harder for most artists to make a living. But I believe that there is one place that will never be taken over by AI art, and that is art festivals. I want to encourage you to take steps now to start representing your work at art festivals. But before we get too far into all that, let's go back to the beginning. We start off in Salt Lake City, where I'm from, in my art studio, which is behind me, frantically printing, trying to get everything ready for these 3 festivals. We immediately run into a pretty big hurdle, which is something called a TPT license. I have a phone call with someone in the tax office 2 days before we're supposed to leave. They said, "You are not allowed to do these festivals if you do not have this license." And I was like, well, I have no choice but to just drive down there, and I hope that my license is reinstated by the time I get there. We drove the 14 hours to Tucson. Very pleasant, nice to get out of the snow. This morning when we woke up, we checked and it said deleted or suspended or closed. So we started researching the penalties on what they do if you operate without a license, and they were steep. As we cross basically the town border, the license comes through. They have issued us a new license. Woo! Which is amazing, considering how stressful that drive was, thinking that we just drove 13 hours for potentially nothing. We got everything set up and started the show, and it was a lot slower than we expected, which brings me to my next goal. Goal number 2. I want to give a comprehensive review of some of these art shows. Hopefully be able to tell you, as a fellow artist, what shows that you should really try and get into, and which ones you can kind of pass on. But hold on, you might be asking yourself, who is this guy and does he know what he's talking about? This sound represents 14 years of art festivals, comic cons, music festivals. I've been in the game a long time. So along this adventure, I'll be splitting all these shows into 5 categories. Signing up for the festival, setup, the actual crowd, how much money we make, and how easy breakdown is. I'm not going to be sharing actual numbers, but I will give you a basic overview of how successful we are at each show. Hopefully, by being transparent about all these details, I will empower you to make educated decisions about the path that you think is right for you. So we ended up having a fairly successful show in Tucson. Overall, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. Some of the crowd was a bit intense, but overall it was a pleasant show to do. I would do it again if it was part of a circuit, but I'd pass on it if it was just for that one show. Breakdown at Tucson was a bit hectic, but we were able to get everything put away, organized in the van, and we headed up to Tempe. We ended up camping in the desert and waiting to see if we got in off the wait list. But before we get too far into that, I want to address the introverts. It's awkward to sell your work at an art festival. That is the trickiest part about doing art shows, is trying to deal with the awkwardness of sharing something that you've made with strangers. But people are simple. If you explain what makes you passionate about your work and you're able to convey that to each person who walks by, then you will connect. Don't worry about repeating yourself. Try and lean into finding a pattern of opening up a conversation saying, "Hey, how's it going? Just so you know, this is what I do and this is why I love doing it." And with that helpful tip out of the way, on to goal number 3. I want to effectively communicate that this is, in my opinion, the best way of sharing your actual artwork. When you publish your artwork to the internet, algorithms dictate where your art is seen, and it can really get you down. I've found that just getting out there, hitting the pavement, and going straight to the people is the fastest way to actually connect with an audience. Hey, what about galleries? Fuck galleries. Just kidding, but honestly, galleries are just another way of separating the art from the artist. You want to create the closest possible connection to your work and who you are as an individual. But now we have to see if I got in off the wait list. they called it in and said that we were into the Tempe Arts Festival. Got everything set up for Tempe, and the show was amazing. Considering all 5 categories, I would give Tempe an 8 out of 10. Would definitely do on its own. It's worth traveling to. Great crowd. I think that the demographic skews younger. We got all packed up after Tempe and headed up to St. George, Utah. This is my first year doing St. George, and we were blown away. It was so busy, we had hardly any time to film at all. Considering all 5 categories, I would give St. George a 9 out of 10. Wonderful layout, very organized. I would definitely consider driving from anywhere in the country to do St. George. It was that good. If you've made it to this point in the video, I think you may be interested in doing art festivals. I hope you'll subscribe and like this video so that you can watch more informative videos on how to pull off an art festival like a pro. I tell you what, if you are an artist and you want to do art festivals, invest in a van. Something that can get you in sort of the back country, because that is, in my opinion, the biggest perk. The excuse to go spend a week out in Mother Nature. Hope to see more of you out there on the road. Love you guys. Done these for the last decade. How long have I done this? I'm gonna check.